Hello and welcome to the Hispanic Patriot Podcast, a weekly podcast broadcast live from a secret, undisclosed location here in the heart of the great state of Colorado. Here we speak the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help us God. My name is Nicholas Razzo, and without further ado, I present to you all our fearless patron, Hugo Chavez Ray. Give it up for the Hispanic Patriot Podcast, everybody.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Hispanic Patriot Podcast, our weekly show brought to you by nobody.
All of you guys.
Oh, just kidding.
No,
So we've got a big show for you tonight, a lot of topics to cover. We're going to go through them, give you a little bit of insight as to what we're thinking, and hopefully, if you're out there watching, you can use our chat to give us some feedback and or comments as we go. We will be monitoring that, and we will comment on the most poignant ones that we get. But keep it clean, and we'll be watching for your comments. All right. So Tuesday night we had the great town hall, a town hall for the people, for and by the people.
You guys have been hearing about it for a while.
In Colorado Springs, we had a little over 50 attendees in person, and unfortunately, we had a technical glitch on our live stream, but fret not, we recorded the entire event, and with God's hand, we are hoping to have it up sometime tonight, okay? But the complete event will be available for you to view and review. So be patient, and we will have the event up for you for those of you who were unable to attend or who tried to join in on the live stream and there were problems. So again, glitches, technical, things happen, but we move on, and we did record the event for you, and we will have it up on our platforms hopefully by the end of this evening.
Personally, I was unfair myself because I was advocating we do exactly this because I wanted some reward for those who showed up in person because we are grateful for every one of you. But also keep an eye out. We are clipping up the event. We are making it fun and exciting for you and from different angles. We did a lot of pictures as well, guys. So check it out on the Facebook page. We really appreciate every single one of you.
Yep. Amen. All right, so we had it was a good town hall.
It was a lot of fun.
Very interesting questions. Our moderator, Mr. Jeff Hunt, did a tremendous job.
Fantastic
moderating. So if you're watching, Jeff, we extend our gratitude and thanks for your participation. Look forward to doing more things with you down the line.
Big shout out. And as I was saying in the pre-show, I would love to see Jeff Hunt moderate the governor's debate.
That would be nice. Yeah. So we had a lot of good questions. The panelists did an excellent job, I think, in highlighting their answers and
most definitely,
and giving us their viewpoints on the different issues and topics. And as you'll see in the video, you'll get some insight as to the candidates. Now, Linda thinks she's not a candidate, but she is, because she has to run for re-election next year. She was elected in this special session, or special election rather, and she will be serving through the following year. So technically, she will be a candidate, not this November, but next November in 26. So we wish her the best. We think she's a great, terrific candidate. Feisty Latina, we like that. Air Force veteran, and I think you will hear great things about Linda Zamora Wilson. Keep an eye out for her in the Colorado legislature.
And keep an eye out for our videos so you can judge it for yourself, because we have it all just for you.
Yep. And, interestingly enough, all three of them were talking about the upcoming special session that Governor Polis has called. And one of the comments that I heard from both Scott and Mark were, he really doesn't need us there because he can go in there and do whatever he wants, which is what he's going to do anyway. So he can just go in there and say, okay, you cut 2%, you cut 2%, you cut 2%, whatever. But it's a joke. It's just another backdoor attempt to try to weaken Tabor. Bottom line, folks, that's what this is all about. Pay attention. They're trying to take your money. They're trying to take your Tabor. And if they're successful in killing Tabor, God help us all in Colorado. I think it'll be a ghost town here.
I would say that there is at least 90% of the reason, at least financially, that we stay here is because of Tabor, because it is such a reliable source of income. It is such a reliable source of returned revenue to the citizens of Colorado. I know that we'll be sticking it out here no matter what happens, but there are so many people that's why we're taking a moment to talk about it. But Hugo, I am actually really proud of what we were able to do at the town hall, because we also got signatures for important petitions circulating around the state, and we're able to promote the very, very important D11 and D20 school board races here in Colorado Springs, and getting people all over the state. Because really amazing, Hugo, when we have to mention this, we had people at our town hall from all over the place. Divide, Woodland Park, Denver, Monument, Fountain, and a bunch here in Colorado Springs, of course, from all over the city. So I feel that we made something that was very inclusive for the Republican Party. We made it so that no matter who you were in the party, you could come and ask your representatives the important pertaining questions of the day. That is what we set out to do in this town hall. And guys, we're happy to report hole in one.
All right. That was great. We'll have a little more news about another event coming up in September that we've been invited to, but we'll talk about that a little later. Let's move on to some national news, and that is President Trump and President Putin have a summit tomorrow in Alaska. So let's tune in to a couple of clips here that we have prepared for you, and we will comment on it after we share
Major international development.
And all eyes are on Alaska tonight as President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin meet to discuss the ongoing war in Ukraine.
Yeah, this is going to be a big meeting. NBC 10 political reporter Matt Pritchard has been talking to the Massachusetts congressional delegation. Matt, how are they viewing this moment?
Yeah, Glenn, JC, criticism and cautious optimism are blending together, hoping for meaningful progress, but worried this meeting will be more of the same.
Little more than 6 months.
A high-stakes meeting with the world watching.
I thought the easiest one would be this one. It's actually the most difficult.
President Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin set to meet Friday in Alaska, with the war in Ukraine front and center.
If it's a bad meeting, it'll end very quickly. And if it's a good meeting, we're going to end up getting peace.
Now, here in Massachusetts,
we want to see this war come to an end.
Congressional members waiting to see how this all plays out. Congressman Jake Auchincloss saying Trump is, quote, whining and dining Vladimir Putin on American soil and signaling weakness, while others contend there's the potential for progress.
It's the only step forward that we have. Otherwise the fighting continues.
And the meeting itself comes with multiple challenges.
What I see here is that this was put together very quickly. And as a result, there's a lot of uncertainty as to what will actually happen.
Is there a possibility here where the two leaders, they agree this is what we should do, but Ukraine says no, and we keep fighting?
We may find a situation in which Trump presents something to Ukraine and to our allies, our European allies, that they simply can't accept.
But Republican strategists argue Trump is well suited to navigate those difficulties.
This shows that he's determined into delivering on another campaign promise that he said, which is to try to figure out a peaceful end to this conflict.
The comments echoed by the commander-in-chief himself.
I'll know within the first 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, or 5 minutes, like we tend to find out whether or not we're going to have a good meeting or a bad meeting.
Now, the summit is scheduled to start at 3:30 Eastern Time tomorrow afternoon in Anchorage, with a press conference to follow. In studio, Matt.
All right. Apart from that one guy who sounded a little bit clueless, he doesn't know. He obviously doesn't.
Only one? That's not that bad, for the mainstream media.
Well, he obviously doesn't understand President Trump. If he did, he wouldn't make such a ridiculous comment that, that he's
Whining and dining Putin.
Whining
in
and
Alaska.
dining.
Who gets wined and dined in Alaska?
And he's
Real quick, it's
implying
like, how
that
comfortable could Alaska be?
anybody that implies President Trump is in over his head is totally clueless, in my opinion. So, that's
I couldn't agree more.
That's my take on this. And then the comment about Zelensky possibly not accepting something if Trump and Putin come to an agreement.
This isn't a meeting with any Ukrainian officials, actually. This is a bilateral meeting. So I don't, the Ukrainians aren't even involved in this meeting.
Well, I think Mr. Zelensky is in for a rude awakening if he thinks he's going to be the muddied part of this summit. And if they come up with the solution that's workable and he rejects it, I don't think it's going to go well for Mr. Zelensky.
No, but ultimately the Ukrainians do have to agree to whatever is decided here. And I think that's going to be, and also the Europeans as well. But here's the thing. Trump and Rubio have been working very hard to already know the European and Russian positions beforehand. Everyone says, oh, what's with all these meetings? They're a waste of time. Well, these meetings allowed us beforehand to know what everybody's thinking. So now we're able to come to Alaska. Hugo, I think that there's something very important here of why Putin is comfortable coming to Alaska. Because they were trying to have it in the Vatican. They were trying to have it in all these neutral places. I think that we have to be cautious because Putin believes that Alaska is neutral territory because he believes that in some capacity Alaska is still Russian territory. Maybe not in a claims-wise, but he certainly believes this is culturally the place in America where Russia once was. And so he feels comfortable coming here, but wouldn't be comfortable anywhere else. So that's important, and I think Trump knew that. It really shows that Trump does know Putin's mind a lot better than people think he does.
I refer you to The Art of the Deal.
Exactly.
So let's. There's one.
It pairs very well with The Art of War. If we want to talk about whining and dining.
Donald Trump. The White House is reportedly considering inviting Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to Trump's face-to-face meeting with Russia's Vladimir Putin this Friday in hopes of bringing an end to the war.
Madeline Rivera joins us live from Washington with the latest. Good morning, Maddie.
Good morning. Senior U.S. officials tell NBC News they are talking about the possibility of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky coming to Alaska, where this meeting between the president and Putin is being held. No visit, though, has been finalized, so it's unclear if Zelensky is actually attending or whether he and Putin will even be in the same room if he does attend. A White House official says the president remains open to a trilateral summit with both leaders. Right now, the White House is planning the bilateral meeting requested by President Putin. Zelensky maintained on Saturday that there will be no peace agreement without Ukraine's input. He also says Ukraine won't be ceding land to Russia, a notable position given that Russia reportedly wants to keep large portions of Ukrainian land as part of a truce. Zelensky says on X, I have not heard any partners express doubts about America's ability to ensure that the war ends. The President of the United States has the levers and the determination. What is needed now is not a pause in the killings, but a real lasting peace, not a ceasefire sometime in the future. In months, but immediately. President Trump told me so, and I fully support it.
There you go. So, personally, I don't think he will attend tomorrow.
No, I don't think he's going to fly all the way to Alaska from.
But at the same time, the hand has been extended, the groundwork has been laid, and for those who think this is a quote, rushed meeting, they have no clue about international relations and how things work behind the scenes.
They don't.
They have been working on this for months, and we've come to this position where they're going to have the sit down, and hopefully they will come to some agreements that are palatable also to Ukraine, because it is a three-way game, so to speak. You can't just have two parties going in and saying, okay, this is the way it's going to be, and then expect the third party to just, accept it. They have to have some input themselves. They have their own parameters, like Zelensky was saying, that no land should be held by the Russians. But a
Or
negotiation.
at least legally seated, at least as part of that, we should say.
And a negotiation is a negotiation. By the time you do that, by the time you have these talks and you work out the details, you have to decide what it is that you really want. And ultimately, I think what everybody wants is an end to the killing. And that's been President Trump's priority from day one.
And for years now. I mean, we heard it at the RNC. We've heard it every single time Trump has talked about this war. And I want to give Trump credit on one thing that nobody is talking about right now, that he made a major peace treaty agreement between Azerbaijan and Armenia, which included U.S. peacekeepers instead of Russian peacekeepers along the line of contact. Yeah. That is a major chip that we are able to play in this Alaska meeting, and nobody is talking about it. So, folks, I want to assure you that there are always things going on behind the scenes. So always do your research. And why not come and do your research here on Hispanic Patriot Podcast with us?
Absolutely. All right, let's shift over to some local news. In Denver,
we're some of the best for local news, Hugo.
We had a situation at a Denver hotel, and let's
very local for you.
Yep, absolutely, and I loved it because it was it's something that needed to be done.
Any other Tuesday night, unmarked SUVs started circling the block. Black DHS vans followed, then more vehicles. Witnesses counted at least 12 federal units converging on one of Denver's busiest business hotels. The kind of place where executives stay for weeks, where conferences run late, where nobody asks too many questions. But someone was asking questions, and they'd been asking for weeks. According to DHS insiders who spoke on condition of anonymity, this wasn't random. Federal investigators had been building a case, surveillance, financial records, employee databases. They knew exactly who was working in housekeeping, who was running the kitchen overnight shifts, who'd been staying in those extended stay suites for months without proper documentation. The hotel thought they were untouchable. Downtown Denver, business district, high-profile clientele. Nobody expected federal agents to roll up in tactical gear and shut down the entire operation, but that's exactly what happened. It was like a movie. One witness said, watching from across the street. Agents everywhere, radios crackling, people being walked out with their hands zip-tied. The lockdown was immediate. Elevators stopped between floors, hallways blocked by agents in body armor. Guests who tried to leave their rooms were turned back. The lobby became a command center, reception desks cleared, security cameras redirected, phone lines cut. IC didn't come to negotiate. They came to extract. Staff members described the scene as instant chaos. Housekeeping carts abandoned in hallways. Kitchen prep left half finished. Maintenance workers pulled from utility closets. Anyone without proper documentation was separated immediately. No exceptions, no explanations. The processing center was set up in a conference room on the lower level, the same room where corporate meetings happened just hours before. Now it was filled with federal agents, laptops, and fingerprint scanners. People.
There you have it. New meaning gives new meaning to the phrase housekeeping.
That was fantastic. No, really, it does, because I mean, these people think they're safe. I mean, right, Hugo? Isn't that the case? These people think they're safe where they are, and then ICE busts in, and it's just like total chaos. Everyone's, dropping everything, running everywhere. Because you imagine the scrambling that happens. Just things getting knocked over, food being thrown places. This is it just turns into a major circus, and that's why folks, we are above this in the Hispanic community. We are not just a bunch of illegal immigrants scrambling around away from ICE. And did you see some of these guys? They didn't look exactly Hispanic. We have illegal immigrants all over the place.
This is not all about Hispanics.
Barely anymore like that. It's really not like that anymore.
They come in all sizes, shapes, forms, and colors. Okay, so
all over the world, we have equal opportunity illegal immigrants.
Let's not focus too much on Hispanics. Now, do they happen to be...
ICE certainly didn't. Half of ICE is Hispanic, so...
Exactly. More than half. More than half.
No, they are. They're Hispanic Patriots. That's what ICE is.
Absolutely. So, Anyway, I was happy to see that. And of course, the usual suspects are out there crying and, oh, look at this. This is Gestapo.
If ICE doesn't do anything, isn't that a waste of our tax dollars? Like, these guys need to stop complaining so much about the process working.
Yep. And we have one more story from ICE. ICE never seems to disappoint.
Nice
But
to meet you.
This one I really liked because it involves the governor of California.
Taking a trip to California.
Hey, what's going on here? Hey, now we're here making Los Angeles a safer place since we won't have politicians. We do that ourselves.
Enjoy. Hello. Man, what's happening?
What is it about?
What is it about? What's happening? Y'all trying to get him out of here?
Arrest that guy with a Mexican flag. Wrong country, Now, at any rate, what happened was that the governor was having his little press conference, and ICE showed up and crashed the party outside and arrested some illegals.
Well,
Right.
instead of being happy to see, law enforcement in his town, he went scurrying off just with the rest of them.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I have a
Yeah.
question, though, Hugo. Very important question. How do we know that Gavin Newsom is not an illegal immigrant? How do we know that for a fact?
We don't.
We don't.
Although he does look a lot like Beavis.
He does a little bit. So I am calling on Gavin Newsom to prove that he is an American citizen. And if he
Yes.
can do that, then he has no right to be afraid of ICE, and the next time they show up, he has to stay there.
Show us your papers, Governor.
Show us your papers, Governor. Well, he just seems a little too comfortable around them. It just seems coincidental. That's all I'm saying.
And for those of you who think that Mexico is not cooperating with the U.S., let's look at this next story. It has a lot to do with what's happening in
Mexico doesn't like the Carteles any more than we do.
Exactly. And these people are definitely on the radar.
Has extradited 26 high-ranking cartel members, including top leaders from the Sinaloa, Jalisco, and Noreste cartels to the U.S. That also includes one suspect who is accused of participating in the 2008 killing of a Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputy. Attorney General Pam Bondi writing, quote, "These 26 men have all played a role in bringing violence and drugs to American shores. Under this Department of Justice, they will face severe consequences for their crimes against this country."
We have Hudson Institute Senior Fellow and Foreign Policy Expert Rebecca Heinrich. She joins us now. Rebecca, good morning.
Good morning.
From what I'm reading, these 26 individuals, cartel members or leaders, I believe that the U.S. promised to seek the death penalty in order, as part of the deal to get them here. What's Mexico's, what is their incentive to send those folks here?
Well, if you remember, when the Trump administration designated the cartels as a foreign terrorist organization, obviously the Mexican government got incredibly nervous about that because that gives incredible power to the U.S. government to pursue the cartels. So the Mexican government is now cooperating with the U.S. government because it does not want U.S. forces going into Mexico to take care of the cartels, which have been a direct threat and have been terrorizing Americans, in which this administration is clearly not going to tolerate it. So what I find encouraging about this is the collaboration now between the U.S. government and the Mexican government so that, the Mexican government doesn't get any more of the direct kind of ire and attention from the Trump administration.
Yeah, a major win for the Trump administration because the last place these 26 cartel leaders would want to be is in U.S. custody. And our relationship with Mexico is unique when it comes to trade and also immigration. The timing of all this, what do you think about that and why this is happening right now?
Well, of course, President Trump is also threatening increased tariffs against Mexico. But really, Mexico still wants to be considered an ally of the U.S.
But wait a minute. I thought tariffs didn't work.
United States. And in that press release that the Trump administration released designating the cartels as a foreign terrorist organization, it developed in that release the connection between the Mexican government and the cartels, saying the Mexican government cannot tolerate the cartels. It certainly cannot enable and then be enriched by them. And there's been a U.S. concern increasingly that the Mexican government's not cracking down on the cartels and in fact is becoming enriched by them. So it's the combination, I think, of the U.S. government threatening increased tariffs and also taking a more adversarial look rather than a look of an ally and a trade partner.
Rebecca, from the southern border to across the sea, in just a few hours, President Trump will join an emergency call with European leaders. They're calling it an emergency call. This is ahead of Friday's meeting with Vladimir Putin. Here's Caroline Levitt yesterday on the Trump-Putin showdown.
So there you have it, folks. Progress from the Mexican side. 26 leaders of cartels extradited to the U.S. where they can't be broken out of jail, out of custody.
Yeah, can't access their contacts. They
can't access their contacts, and certainly they won't be in Mexico hurting the good people down there. So, and if I had to put my money on this, I will bet you that none of those will ever see the light of day again.
No, it might be one of their last journeys, actually. I would love to see that. Because, these people are monsters. They really do the worst things. But there's a subtle thing that Trump is doing that's helping Mexico get over the cartel problem that nobody is seeing and nobody's talking about. Mexico is a very left-wing country in terms of how it was run, how it was set up. It was basically under one-party rule, leftist rule, for about 80 years, something like that. And that legacy means that there is almost no outlet for natural patriotism, or at least kind of right-wing nationalism that we have here in the United States, that we have a healthy outlet for these things. For a lot of machismo, kind of blockheadish kind of guys in Mexico, the cartel life is all they have. But our style of working class, MAGA, real populist nationalism is starting to seep into Mexico. And a lot of people that would otherwise join these kind of guys, they now have a healthy, masculine nationalism to go against the LGBT agenda, the rainbow mafia. You see this pushback in Mexico because, there was actually, Hugo, a lot of push for gay marriage, a lot of LGBT stuff. You notice you don't see a lot of the trans stuff in Mexico. They're further back in a lot of this social stuff, partly because they have these guys who will not allow any of those things happening. You get your head cut off, crazy things. This all is becoming healthy. We're getting rid of the criminals, and we're making sure that Mexican patriotism, Mexican nationalism has a healthy outlet. That's something no one's talking about that Trump is doing, and he's doing it all over the world.
The man is like the Energizer Bunny. I have no idea where he gets his energy, but he makes young people look lethargic. Literally. He just,
it's true.
God bless him, because I think God has his hand on him to do a lot of these things. So
we saw what it did in Argentina, didn't we? Argentina was very violent. People don't remember how violent. You probably remember, Hugo, crazy bombings and government kidnapping. Now look at Argentina today under Javier Milei, someone who is a Trump ally. Look what Brazil could have been under Bolsonaro before they frauded the election away from him. We are seeing huge progress in Hispanic America because of Donald Trump. So when anyone says, oh, you can't vote for Trump because he hates Hispanics, look at the fruits of what's going on in Hispanic America and here in America.
That's just an idiotic argument. Anyway,
we have to deal with those, Hugo,
Yeah. So listen, this next story ties right into what we just said. It's a good segue because They had an event in Texas where law enforcement rescued some children.
What's happened to him?
She's got them in the back of the truck, and the truck is locked.
The truck bed was locked from the outside. No windows, no airflow, just 2 dirty mattresses shoved in the front like a bad cover story. But when officers finally got it open, they found children, barely alive. Some were too weak to cry. The woman behind the wheel drove up from Houston and told police she was just there to pick up a mattress. But her phone told a different story. It wasn't just one truck. There was a convoy on an infamous smuggling route. And according to what ICE told the press that day, it's all linked to El Mencho's dreadful cartel. This is how the CJNG is now using children as shields, and the story's about to get much darker before we unpack everything. Now let's start with the bus that broke the internet. It was supposed to be a traffic stop, one of dozens happening that week near Eagle Pass, where the Texas highway curves dangerously close to cartel-controlled territory. That's when the officer noticed something odd. A pickup parked awkwardly on the shoulder, its driver nervous and refusing to open her truck.
And she's got them in the back of the truck, and the truck is locked.
The woman said she was just visiting family. She'd driven up from Houston to pick up the mattresses from a friend. But when the officer knocked on the truck bed, he heard something, a soft thud, then silence, and that's when he pried it open. Beneath the mattresses, wedged into the tiny, airless space, were 12 children, between several more adults. To say the place was cramped would be a grave understatement. These kids were breathing shallow. Some were clinging to each other. Others curled into corners with their shirts pulled over their faces.
Can you get EMS this way? We got young kids too.
One of the kids didn't respond when pulled out. They had to radio for EMS. The officers on the scene could barely believe what they were looking at. Most of the children weren't speaking, not because they didn't speak English, but because they were too scared. None of them knew where they were going. One officer would later state that the driver claimed the kids wanted to ride in the back. But you don't ride under a locked lid with no ventilation unless someone tells you to. One girl had a bleeding scrape on her leg, likely from trying to shift under the metal ridges. Another boy had shoes 2 sizes too big, no socks, and an old phone number written in Sharpie on his forearm. The driver, now in custody, kept repeating one line in Spanish. They told me it was just 2, but there were 12, and they weren't alone. 25 people were crammed inside that truck, and the same night, another truck was caught just 1 town over with more people inside. And when the dog started sniffing, officers knew this wasn't a one-off. The setup was too clean, the kids were too scared, and the story was way too rehearsed. So they started pulling over more vehicles, heading down the same stretch of highway. And that's when things unraveled fast, because what they found next was even worse. Just hours before the kids were pulled from that locked truck bed, another truck was already drawing suspicion. Officers near Del Rio clocked a pickup for a minor violation.
Where are you coming in from?
I honestly have no idea. I'm from California.
First off, how can anyone say they don't know where they're coming from? Secondly, the cops knew from the get-go this guy was suspicious, so they started digging through the hay in his truck.
Oh yeah, compartment. There's bodies.
Yeah, officers found a hidden compartment full of bodies. 2 men, limp from heat and dehydration, were stuffed into a crawl space, barely big enough for one. One of them had a tracking bracelet from ICE. The other had gone missing 2 months earlier. His family thought he was dead. That was the moment they stopped treating it like just another smuggling job. This was cartel-level logistics. Compartments like this aren't improvised. They're engineered, the kind of custom work CJNG pays top dollar for. And now, the officers knew. They weren't chasing coyotes. They were intercepting a supply chain.
Hey, you're under arrest.
That same day, another driver got pulled over for something stupid, failing to use his turn signal. At first, it felt routine, just like the truck check, but the trooper noticed he was sweating, rambling, and talking in circles, and he would under no circumstances want them to see what was in his trunk.
You can make this up though? No. I don't give anybody the same service. They just went through my whole car with the dogs and everything in Border Patrol, so I don't understand. Listen, I ain't hiding nothing.
When they did have him.
Yeah, he's not hiding nothing. Sure. I believe you.
Well, and this is classic stories, here, and that's what we're trying to really show here is the facts that, this is how trafficking networks happen. It's very how you'd expect, you'd see on TV. It's really not high-minded, and we know the tactics of it. So it was all a matter. So the point is, Hugo, we could have stopped this under Biden. It's not that hard. They're not that smart. And we know where they hide the bodies.
Well,
so
come on.
that's
Let's
proof
be
right
real,
there.
though. Biden wanted this stuff.
Exactly. He let it happen.
He's
Because he could
implicit.
have stopped it.
Complicit with it. I don't care what people say. Oh, you can't prove it. Blah blah.
Well, I think that almost is proof right there, because literally you see this stuff on TV. Okay, you poke in this corner. Okay, they hide the people under here when they cross the border. That's why these people get caught so much, and that's why we've seen, what was it? No illegal border crossings for however long it was. That's
You're getting ahead of yourself there.
Right. But it's true. What I mean to say is that it frustrates me because we could have stopped this. It's so easy. We know how they traffic people, and people say that it's a conspiracy, that it's happening, that children aren't trafficked, that, you know, Moms for Liberty and other folks, that their job has no meaning because that's not really happening. You're all crazy. That stuff's not real. It's real. It happens every day, and we have to fight to stop it.
Yep. All right. That's a story out of Texas, and it's ongoing, and law enforcement is hard at work everywhere you look now, all over the U.S., and it's all thanks to President Trump's no-nonsense approach to this whole mess of child trafficking, illegal immigrations, terrorists coming into the country. It's all part of the cleanup process that Biden left the Trump administration. So we're going to be seeing a lot more of this. Now let's shift over to New York City.
There you go, the Big Apple.
Where the wannabe mayor, the socialist Mamdani, had a little event. He had an anti-Trump rally, and let's take a peek as to what he actually encountered there, because it's kind of interesting that it kind of backfired on him.
Don't put them home!
Holy mo! They're telling him to go home. Oh man! So apparently, Zohran Mamdani, the leader of the Democrats in New York City, he's leading to probably be the next mayor. We're going to be talking about Curtis Lewa, who was right behind him, who was the Republican nominee. All his supporters and Trump supporters gathered to kick out Zohran Mamdani from an anti-Trump rally. Get out of town. He apparently tried to go to Staten Island, and Staten Island was not having it. Scott Levito, who has performed for President Trump before, he's an artist.
If you know anything about Staten Island, that would be the last place a liberal should want to go.
Especially to hold an anti-Trump rally.
Yeah.
He basically said, let's give a nice Staten Island welcome to the dear comrade and socialist communist Zohran Mamdani. And ladies and gentlemen, you got to see this video. Ladies and gentlemen, I mean, Zohran Mamdani is a lot of people are not a fan of this guy. So where are the numbers coming from? A lot of New Yorkers are not feeling a communist route. They're not feeling this socialist wannabe communist in reality route. And it's not looking too good for New York City right now. But he tries to go to Staten Island, and boy, oh boy, did he get chased out of there.
I want everybody to smile and say, surprise! That's what pisses me off. And that people are worried about a single curse word, but meanwhile their cities, countries burning to the ground like this, but they're worried about my cursing.
He sounds like he's from New
York.
York.
Want to get something to eat. They come the communists, the communists.
Well, he's got security. He's got security with him. There's Zohran in the background with security. I'm pretty sure they're armed.
Let me tell you something, man. You are not welcome in this island. I'm you hater. You hater piece. Hey, Mr. Mamdani, can I talk to you? This is my island. You're not welcome here. Excuse me. You hate Jews.
You're gonna sleep with the fishes.
Holy mo! They're telling him to go home right to his face. And they have Curtis Lewa signs. So New Yorkers are awakening to the reality that right now he has an 80% chance of winning. And boy, oh boy, what a welcome from New York City, man.
Yo, man, baby, with your fake smile, your smug smile, you know you're scared. Your balls coming to this island. Make noise, people. Let it hear.
Okay, we're live on air right now on Newsmax.
Yeah, don't mess with Staten Island, man.
No, really, honestly, I think that the anti-Semitism label is really drinning up a lot of hatred against Mamdani, and rightfully so. I don't know why he thinks that he'll be welcome in the places he needs votes in, but I think that he might be banking on the good old Tammany Hall machine to get him through, post primary.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a very contentious race. Let's.
Well, you don't say. Look at it.
Our good friend Charlie Kirk has something to say about this. He's sounding the alarm about Mamdani's inner circle. So let's listen in on that.
Socialist Zoran Mamdani resumes his anti-Trump tour today. The New York Times says his plans for free buses and policing were written with the help of other policy aides who, like him, cut their teeth in the Democratic Socialists of America. And until recently, few of the people closest to him had ever worked in the government at all. Like Mr. Mamdani, his aides are notably younger, further left than the advisors of the rival campaigns. All Democrats, by the way. The Democratic establishment, many have spent years fighting it. Here to discuss it is Turning Point USA founder, Charlie Kirk. Charlie, great to see you.
Great to see you, my friend.
All right, first off, on the rise of the socialists, yes. Keem Jeffries, not a word. Not a word from Schumer, Dan Goldman. Why not? Where's the leadership?
Well, they're terrified, and they want to be on the right side if he becomes mayor. But it goes to show the dysfunction of the Democrat Party, both here in New York and nationally. And understand, the last couple of election cycles, they were able to quell this kind of AOC socialist base. Bernie Sanders won the primary in 2016, but there were a lot of gamesmanship by Hillary Clinton. He was probably going to win it in 2020. Remember, there were more games with Joe Biden. So that base has been quelled for over a decade. And Mamdani, we're about to hear them roar.
I don't know if there's a moderate base out there for Democrats, which has got to be scary. So let's take a look at what the Mamdani staff would look like. First, you got his influence of his parents. Dad's over at Columbia. Filling up those
Isn't that fitting,
minds?
by the way, of all the it's like
Absolutely.
central casting.
Right, absolutely. And then you have his mom, a filmmaker. The guy's got some money. And he's got a rent control department.
That's right. And it's important. The Columbia thing shouldn't be lost. His ideas are an extension of the very thing that we're fighting every single day on college campuses. And undergirding all of this, and you can look at the connective tissue of the radicals, is the public sector teacher unions. They want to get rid of charter schools. They want to get rid of any semblance of school choice. They did a massive press conference on July 9th, basically, and Mamdani said, whatever you want. And Mamdani is the outgrowth of the seeds that were planted by these public sector teacher unions that want to get rid of parental choice and want to keep kids stuck in failing schools here in New York City.
The money is set aside for charter schools that benefit mostly minority communities, and they're going to hurt the people that put them in office in many respects. This is a little bit of the staff of the socialist movement. You have Zara, who is going to introduce him to a cool crowd, a veteran of Vogue, Uber, and presidential campaigns of Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. And then you have Ellie. Ellie is somebody that also comes from the socialist movement. And then this is basically the staff that's going to fill him up. The word is they're trying to get Bill Bratton to give him legitimacy, but I hope he doesn't do it.
This is a Bolshevik type of group. And I say that with intentionality because they're radical. This is not part of the Democrat establishment. They want to go even further than some of what Mamdani's talked about.
And then check this out. AOC clearly is his mentor, and Letitia James is somebody that wants a job.
And that's what we see here, folks, from our good friend Charlie Kirk. You know, growing up in Chicago, like me and Charlie did, we literally saw Democrats do this again and again and again in small groups, in small batches. Whether they were taking over House districts, whether they were particularly around a this or that congressperson, they always wanted their friends to be in positions of power. Their friends often with the most radical views. So when he says this, that it's a Bolshevik kind of thing, he's speaking from history, not just from 1917 Russia, but also from 2012 Chicago. because that really was when everything was the most radicalized, was Barack Obama's second run. And me and Charlie got front row seats to that. So that was certainly something that we'll never forget in terms of our experience. And that's why I think we're going to have a lot more attention in New York. Because, again, it's strange how, Chicago was the ground zero for so much of this. And I think it was because of Barack Obama, purely proximity. But also, here in Colorado, it's interesting that in this state, we also had the blueprints for a state takeover. Like from Chicago outward, or from here in Colorado, group by group, outward, and divide and conquer strategies. I think in New York, you're seeing a combination of these. Dividing and conquering for the Democrat primary, which might be a really short-term strategy that will come to bite them. And a long-term chance to be able to use New York to make sure that the conservativeness that is coming down from upstate New York has something that can hold it back. And they want it to be a giant red wall. So we'll see how this Hail Mary for the Democrat Party in New York plays out as we continue forward. So again, and also in relation to the Truth and Liberty Conference that we teased about earlier, it would seem that Charlie Kirk will be coming to Colorado for that. Keep you all posted. So our next story is something that I sort of teased out accidentally about the 0 border crossings for the third straight month. Yes, indeed, that was the time frame, actually, as it turns out. The Secretary of Homeland Security has announced that we have had 0 border crossings for 3 months. Isn't that fantastic, guys? Again, proving that it could have been done. It should have been done. There was no benefit for it not being done. And the Biden administration needs to be held accountable at all levels for that horrendous wrongdoing. We simply cannot allow that. Really, we cannot allow that to go unpunished. I really want to stress this, guys. I want you, because there's a segment of the Republican Party I'm addressing right now that are particularly disillusioned with Trump. Whether it's over the Epstein file, whether it's the fact that Hillary Clinton never went to jail, all of this kind of stuff. I want to address you guys for a second. I am certain that the work that has been done by the Trump administration, especially in regard to the Department of Justice and the FBI, especially with Trump's cabinet as it is, there will be justice done when the time comes. The story of America doesn't make a lot of sense without that justice happening. So I think you're going to see that in the future. I think you're definitely going to see justice come to those who opened the gates to the barbarians, who opened the borders, those who hurt the entire country during the COVID pandemic. I do think you're actually going to see justice on all those fronts because of the kind of things that we're able to prove by the contrast. This is what we were saying the whole time during the 2020 election and the 2024 election, that if you elect Trump, you'll see the difference. Now, with the stolen election of 2020 restored in 2024, that comparison is almost fatal for the Democrat Party. It really is. So wanted to give also a big shout out to all of our friends currently serving at the border. We do have several of them here at Hispanic Patriot Podcast. Shout out to all of our young friends who are serving in the armed forces, particularly, because you guys are literally on the front lines. We don't have the same type of I don't want to say war, because this really is a war, and we have to treat it as such. But at the end of the day, you are doing something which is national service, something beyond all of us. So Thank you all very much. And now, guys, we are going to go into a massively important story, potentially the most important story. I don't know if it is the most important story, though. Why don't you guys tell me what you think the most important story today was in the comments below? So, you guys, Washington, D.C., the swamp itself. The swamp itself. Can you believe this, guys? The swamp itself is being taken over. Washington, D.C. is potentially being federalized. Now they say, first of all, we need to dispel some falsehood here. Washington, D.C. is the federal district, is the District of Columbia. It's already federalized, basically. Yes, it has its own votes for things and blah, 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 but it basically is already federal territory as it is. So we really don't need hemming and hawing from, all of these things about, Trump is taking over this power that he never had before. So let's make something clear. What's happening in DC is that the federal policing is what's going on. The policing of DC is being federalized. So let's take a look at that.
Live now from Fox. I'm Andrew Kraft. Live pictures there in our nation's capital. They're at the White House. They're at the Capitol. So we're learning.
You see it there doing
now
nothing.
That the National Guard has begun deploying in D.C. I want to put this up from the Washington Post here. They say this, that the D.C. National Guard will begin deploying in D.C. streets tonight. That's according to the White House. Obviously, a day after President Trump federalized the D.C. police force. So the D.C. National Guard will begin deploying in D.C.'s streets tonight. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said about 850 officers and agents surged into Washington last night following Trump's takeover of the D.C. Police Department and his activation of the National Guard in the city. So as of today, the exact role of the National Guard appeared to still be developing. Earlier today, we heard from D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser. She met with Attorney General Pam Bondi about carrying out Trump's directive to place the D.C. police under direct federal control.
And promising not to kidnap Princess Peach.
Bondi characterized the meeting as productive, and Bowser says she wants to make sure the city is best utilizing additional law enforcement personnel here. So Fox News correspondent Mark Meredith also has more on this, as do our Fox 5 D.C. colleagues. One of our reporters there, Nana Sentwo Bonsu, saying, happening now, she says, just steps away from the Washington Monument, members of the National Guard are gathered with several parked military vehicles. So, right in the heart of D.C., near the National Mall. But Mark Meredith with more.
How about that, guys? So that is the result of Trump's takeover of D.C., his dictatorial takeover of D.C. It's more just about policing powers. Policing powers that I think a lot of Democrats would argue they wish were in place during January 6th, from their perspective, of course. As you guys know, we've been huge advocates for the January 6th political prisoners, and you can find the interview with one right in the description. But guys, we really have no downsides to this happening, to the National Guard being deployed to D.C. to clean up this crime problem. You all guys remember the last week when we had to report that Big Balls, because we forgot his name, and I could look it up, but this is much funnier. So Big Balls got beaten up and earned his title protecting innocent people in D.C. Trump responded not just to that, but to numerous crime waves that had been taking place across our nation's capital by getting serious, by taking the National Guard to the streets. Now, I have a question then, in relation to the other stories and to tie it all together with the other stories that we've been doing for tonight. What if we did something like this? What if Trump is doing this in part as a practice run for something? Not to be a dictator and take over the country, but you've seen his response to civilian protests. And we've seen his response to hardened criminals, to bring them into jails while they'll receive the death penalty from foreign countries if need be, to close off the route of drugs, which cuts out the route of money, which incidentally he's also doing to Russia in the oil markets before this Alaska meeting. What if Donald Trump is planning, very seriously, the National Guard to move into cities throughout the United States to clean up the mess that Biden had left, so that we could start back at year zero, so we could start back at a point where law enforcement has control of their cities again, ending sanctuary cities, ending the crime waves that, as we proved in the earlier part of this episode, was being allowed because of the ease of finding the criminals. You know, seriously, guys, like some of that stuff that those coyotes were doing was literally in Breaking Bad. Like, come on, guys. Come on. It's a little silly. But I want us all to remember something very important. The comical aspect of our situation does not negate its threats and problems. It's really funny, and I want you guys to laugh when we tell you these stories. I want to, and we want to be able to present this all in a way that'll make you happy and laugh despite how terrible it all is. But we also want you to never forget how serious it all is as well. It's very important. And that brings us today, Hispanic Patriots, to our word of the day, which you know is a fun recurring segment because we actually find words that will make you sound smart, not just random things on a calendar or such. So, but jokes aside, the word today is agon. 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 Now that sounds kind of foreign because it is. It comes from the Greek, like my own name. It means a conflict, especially between a protagonist and antagonist in a work of literature. It was part of an ancient Greek drama, especially a comedy, as we were just talking about, when two characters engage in a verbal dispute, a battle of wits. So y'all remember in Princess Bride, the agon between two of the main characters. I'm not going to spoil it for you because, frankly, I am amazed by how many classic things, like things that were made in the 70s, 80s, whatever, you know, before even my time, where it was like, oh, you're 5 years old. How do you not know this thing from like 1975 or whatever? Or 1922, you know, whatever it would be, right? And I'm surprised by how many people don't actually, you know, get to enjoy these things. But go watch Princess Bride. But so, guys, I think that we can really learn a lot from this word because we need more of that. More agons, more battles between clear opposing forces. I think we talked about that when we talked about the opt-out in Colorado, or not even just about the opt-out really, but about political mentalities in general here in Colorado. That we really do want to see a true Democrat and a true Republican going after each other. We do not want to see two moderates trying to BS the crowd anymore. That's why I'm actually happy with Mamdani, Mandandy, you know, in New York. It's an honest display of what the Democrats really believe in. I think we need that. And we need to counter that with an honest display of what Republicans really believe in. And we need to let the people decide. Because, folks, when the people have decided again and again and again, they decided for the strong horse. They've decided for the true leader. And to bring it to a Native American aspect, they voted for the chief. They voted for somebody who was a natural leader. Someone who would naturally never give up. And that's why we here at Hispanic Patriot Podcast bring on the folks we do, bring you the information that we do. Because how are we going to know all that? How are we going to know what the right thing to do is unless we have the right information? So thank you guys for joining us today. Before we go, we want to remind you again to please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Follow us on all the platforms. Watch out for all of announcements on YouTube, Rumble, X, and Facebook. Right now on Facebook, we don't have the video recording just yet. Like I said, if you want instant access to everything we do that's live, make sure you tune in live and in person. So we will have the recording up very soon, hopefully by the end of the day, if not, at least by tomorrow. And we also have lots of clips, lots of angles, and lots of answers to important questions that you'll be wanting to hear. And look out for more amazing events from Colorado Hispanic Republicans and Hispanic Patriot Podcast. Guys, thank you again for another wonderful night of hosting this wonderful show with all of our wonderful people. Music, folks, so you know what that means. Time to say goodbye for now. But catch us every week at 6 p.m. Thursdays until the very end. Thank you guys. Always a pleasure. And God bless America. God bless Colorado. And God be with all of you.